Light 2 is now officially out, and I've gone through, played the game, done a lot of side quests, done a lot of parkouring, killed a lot of zombies, and completed the main storyline. And in today's video, we're going to be diving in, and I'm going to be telling you why I think Dying Light 2 Stay Human is better than the original Dying Light, which for me was actually a pretty big surprise. The original Dying Light came out a couple years back, actually more than a couple years. This game has been in development for such a long time, and when that first one came out, I rolled my eyes. I was late to the party on it because it just looked like Dead Island, which for me was one of the biggest disappointments for gaming of all time. Dead Island did not work for me. That, the spin-off, then the sequel, who knows where the fuck that is. But as we're looking at Dying Light 2, the first game was such a surprise. It was great, the parkour elements were there, but it never gripped me enough to ever go back and play with the DLC or do other things. Everything that Techland was setting up for Dying Light 2 seemed to be right up my alley. More RPG elements, a better story, more fleshed out world that is very much lived in with zombies and survivors, and everything that Techland really much went out to execute, I think they granted to such a highlight, and I actually think this game is not just fantastic, but it's really well done. And while not everything is perfect, do not get me wrong, I do have issues with it. I think it's a better experience than the first Dying Light, and everything that first game gave us, this is doubled down and given to us in those better realms. And obviously we're all going to disagree, so if you've played Dying Light 2 and you disagree with me, make sure to leave a comment down below. Am I actually getting you guys more hype for this game? Are you more excited to go pick it up now? Are you finally going to go pick it up because of this video? Well, let me know down below. As well, guys, thank you so much for clicking on this channel. This is Critics Play Games. I'm one of your hosts, Zach Pope, and I am also a film critic who loves movies, but I also love playing games. Everyone associated with this channel is doing the exact same thing. We love movies, but gaming is that hardcore hobby that we also love. And also just a thank you to Techland for sending over a copy of the game. We got it about 2 days early before release, but I gotta say, kind of surprised by that because I already had my copy pre-ordered. I still picked it up. I just gave the copy over to my friend, so I did still support the game. So for all of you guys saying, hey, he's getting paid to say this, blah blah blah, no, I genuinely love video games, and I have a lot to say with this one about why it is better than the first Dying Light. That's where we kind of should start to segue into all that. My pros for this game rely very heavily on a lot of the mechanics in this lived-in world. As I dove in to see what other people are thinking about this game, many people are either mixed or hating on this game, it feels like. I don't see anyone else kind of being as hyped as I am about this game, and it kind of sucks, because for me, there are two issues that I see a lot of people complaining about, especially from the earlier reviews. A lot of it is the story and the bugs. Now, one thing I do want to mention is let's talk about the bugs, because this is going to be a different experience for every single person out there. About 37 to 40 hours into this game, and I maybe only experienced like one bug where I got stuck and had to restart from the last checkpoint. The only other bugs that I've experienced are more just funny ones that you would see typically in an open world game such as Fallout or Skyrim, or even the original Dying Light. These are typical bugs that will get fixed and patched, so I'm not sure if the original copies before the day one patch actually came out were worse than this. I can't imagine, but this is not a Cyberpunk-esque glitchy mess of a game, and Cyberpunk I enjoyed, but damn, I couldn't even defend half the bugs in that game. Dying Light 2, the bugs in here, again, some of them I've seen where like the heads are flipping around or like a body's flying in the midair like for no reason. Those bugs, again, I think we've seen in almost every open world game before. But the thing that we should talk about is the story first, because that seems to be the point of contention where many people keep complaining about it. Some people absolutely hate it. Some people say it's so dry and boring, and honestly, I'm not gonna disagree with you guys. But do I think it's a better story than the original? Absolutely. I can't even tell you what the original one was about. The first game once, and then explored a little bit, played with some friends, and that was my experience with it. Had a blast, but I never was intrigued to go back. Dying Light 2, while February is a stacked month for gaming, we got Horizon Forbidden West, we have Sifu, we have Elden Ring. I'm really sad because I know when those games come out, I'm going to have to go back, cover those, but I know at the very end of this month, once I'm done with all those, because those are all open worlds too, I'm very excited to dive back into this game eventually. I keep going back, I keep putting any sort of amount of time, any little hour that I can into this, because I'm having so much fun investing myself in this world. But I will say the story was something that always felt as an afterthought to me. I was always more excited to get that next parkour upgrade or that next skill upgrade or venture into the world to see what else I can find, what other mutated zombies were out there for me to kill, bash, and what gear and equipment that I could scavenge for. It's the gaming loop that grabbed me. While the story here is not terrible by any means, it's just something that we've seen all the time before. There are some nice twists and turns and actual decisions that I really appreciated that feel to actually shape this world into the world that you are changing. On those story elements, to actually dive into a fever pitch dream that I wasn't expecting. Again, Aiden as our main character, he's very much just feels generic in all those ways. He's looking for his sister in this city and he doesn't know where it is. There's one mysterious figure in his past that is pretty much the villain of this entire story that has some twists and turns to himself, and that is the character that you're trying to look for. I think a lot of the issues that come about Dying Light 2 is how many characters are introduced into here. At a certain point in time, there was some that I completely forgot were even still alive and then pop up and I'm like, oh, I thought you died or something had happened to you. And that for me is where certain things kind of came out about where you didn't really truly care about anyone. And for me, that's probably my biggest con about the game. I don't, again, think this game is perfect by any means. I can talk about some of the bugs that made me laugh. The one that glitched out and I had to restart the last checkpoint. But when it comes down to the story, the weakest element is the story again. Just like the first game, I felt like the weakest element was the story. Because for me, with so many different characters, I never got emotionally invested with someone's story. I was always interested to see where Aiden's story was going to go, but I never felt inclined to dive back into it. I always wanted to do all the other side missions or exploring. That's why it took me so damn long to finish the game. You can definitely tell the attention to detail to everything else was very much put in there. And again, nothing against the story, it's just fine. Some notable characters, it's like the Rosario Dawson, the character Lawson. Cool, she was awesome. I liked being around her. I thought she had this cool personality to her. And Waltz the villain is actually pretty interesting as well. Honestly, for me, the only gameplay loop that did falter for me is that you have to make a choice when giving resources to certain factions. And I feel like that is where the story does come about, is it tries to make you care about two different factions, but in reality, you never really care about either one. And my choices really came down to, well, which upgrades is the other one going to give me? Some are going to give traps, some are going to give more parkour elements. Personally, I always chose the more parkour elements. I never really cared about the traps or anything like that, because if I'm going to kill some zombies, I'm going to kill it with the katana that I found. And I think that's where it kind of just goes from the story back to the gameplay. The gameplay loop is heavily addictive here. If you're someone who loves RPGs and scavenging and all sorts of things like that, you're going to have an absolute blast with this because there's so much material, weapons, outfits, everything to find and customize, and that is some of my best and favorite experiences with this game, was that loop of it all. As I'm adventuring in this entire city, there's so many skyscrapers, so many different locations. Each location feels different than the last. It feels distinctive. You start to actually learn the city and come to be a part of this city as an actual civilian. Not just a civilian, but very much a survivor and making your name known. Every different side quest that I found, some were better than others, but there was always something interesting behind it, or that next loop or that gameplay or that next location that I'm going to be able to go explore next. Always adding something new. There's always a new infected to take on. There's always a new material or weapon or situation to get around. You actually do have to put your brain to it. Should I run away? Should I fight? Should I stay? Should I defend? How should I take on this, and what is the best point of reference to take on this advantage? Those were the elements that actually made me have fun. Well, I like that this game actually forced you to go out at night. I felt like with the first game, if you didn't want to go out at night, you didn't have to. And in this one, a lot of the time, it does force you either within the story, within side missions, or because you want to get to that next grind. You want to get to that next loop, that skill point, or anything of that nature, or even maybe that next weapon. This game makes you play out at night, which contains some of the scariest sequences that you might encounter in a game, and especially even scarier than the original Dying Light. It was always one of the scariest things in that first one, but I find here it's even more intense with the more zombies, more different special infected, and especially as the chases ramp up, and it's hard to get away at times when you're in the middle of nowhere and don't have any safe houses to go to. It becomes very intense, and I always found myself again on the edge during these moments. If I'm being honest, I'm a scaredy cat, so when the first game came out, I definitely Personally, when I did not have to go out at night, I would never. When I found out in this game that a majority of the time you do have to go out, I just went with it, and it kind of built up that courage for me. One of the things that I actually do love is that survival element once again. You do feel like you're going low on resources at times, and med kits, throwing knives, everything like that. At one point, I felt like, oh, I have all this stuff, I never have to worry. And then later down in the game, you're using this stuff way more frequently to get past enemies, to stop stuff as you're building up your skill tree, which that is another big element of it all, is the skill tree. Two different things, health and stamina, and your power and fighting brawling abilities within your parkour. I always go with more parkour, but I also have started to learn that you need more of the brawling stuff to get around and sacrifice and fight. There's a lot of fun elements in both of those, and monitoring your stamina meter to how it all works, again, becomes that addictive, repetitive nature that I loved. And not everyone's gonna love it. Like, if you're not a fan of games like this, you already have made your mind up. But there's something about the gameplay loop here that is absolutely excellent in almost every single way that I was very much impressed with how Techland was able to make me an addict once again. It's been a while since an RPG like this has made me excited to go back in after the story, adventure more, and in general, instead of just going with the story, adventuring everywhere else to see what is so exciting. Love Dying Light 2 Stay Human for that reason, and also talking about the graphics, I actually think they're pretty damn good in here. My dad walked in at one point in time and said, damn, this game looks good. Some of the facial animations are a little bit off, but the entire locale, the entire like draw distance, it's so stunning, and I think the art design for this entire city is insanely beautiful. A lot of the buildings you can go into, interact within, and there's so much to see and do. If you see something high up, you can certainly bet your ass that you're gonna be able to get up there. That's what I love about this game, because how many other games can do that for you without having to glitch your way up there or anything like that? If there's something you can see, you can do it. And I think that's what makes Dying Light 2 so much fun. The parkour is fun, and I did feel at times like Michael Scott.
Parkour! Michael, parkour! Parkour!
Jokes aside, I think Dying Light 2 Stay Human is a fantastic game, better than the first, and a lot of its different parkour elements within all the different controls and the way you have to learn how to play this game. And if you don't remember all the controls, you're gonna fumble your way through. But as you start to play, there's that gameplay loop that you start to get used to, and you actually learn the way of it, and you become a badass certified zombie killer with these awesome parkour moves. And I always felt within the first game it was very much more clunky, but this time it feels redefined in a way that actually makes you feel like you are learning how to play the game as you are going on, and you feel like this new character into this new world. But as you go on, it just gets better and better within each and every hour. Game starts off fast and never really slows down as you continue to explore, as you continue to put time into this all. Before I give you guys my final thoughts on Dying Light 2 Stay Human, again, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button over here on this channel, because we are critics who play games. We love games, and if you're here, you probably also love playing video games. So we definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts on Dying Light 2, and as well, we would just love to have you keep coming back, because we have tons of content coming for the year 2022. Video essays, podcasts, rankings, all sorts of things like that. We got your back. Dying Light 2, my final thoughts is I'm an addict to this. I love this world. I loved the gameplay, the loop of it all, looking, scavenging, killing, all sorts of things like that. This is a game to play. I think what Techland set out to do, they executed pretty damn close to greatness. Now, it's not perfect. There's bugs here and there, some bugs that will make you laugh, some bugs that might piss you off, and everyone's experiences with bugs are going to be different to how tolerable you are to those and how immersive you really want to get in here. Overall, I was pretty immersed. There was maybe one point in time where I was like, that bug kind of was a little bit weird, and the one time I got stuck, it did piss me off, and learning the mechanics and having to fumble around, sometimes I'll forget which controls and which buttons to click, and sometimes I'll die in that manner, but I always continued to come back and have fun. And while the story never really gripped me completely and I didn't really care which faction got what, I just went for what was the better upgrade, I think that comes down to more of a choice that maybe the story could have been written a little bit better. It's generic for what it is, but I think for me, the thing that sold me on Dying Light 2 and what Techland really set out to do was make an immersive world that very much was built up, and I think the art design and all of it is great. I didn't even get to mention how lived in this world feels. You see so many different survivors and like these other gang members who are out there surviving among the zombies as well. One instance was this guy was tied up in a cage, and I got him down, no one in sight, and I turned around the corner, killed a couple zombies, see some guys running after him, and seeing them kill him and then hung him up there again. Elements like that are things that actually bring this world to life for me, and things that actually make me excited to be in here, even if it is frighteningly scary at times with that night, or even some of the locations that you go to. Dying Light 2 impressed me in a lot of different ways. All that said, I'm going to give this game an 8.5 out of 10. Thank you once again, guys, for watching this. You guys are really all the best. Again, Critics Play Games, we love talking games, and we hope to see you guys again soon. As well, thank you to Techland again for sending us over the code for this. Make sure to tweet at them, let them know if you guys are enjoying the game as well, and tag us in there as well so we can see that all. All of our kind of info down below is in the description, so of course, until next time, keep playing games and having fun.